What's up, everybody? Practice is done out here in Ashburn. It was a pretty light one today. On Thursday, their last practice before the Commanders are up to Detroit to face the Lions in their second preseason game. You know, we've talked a lot about injuries the last few days. I'm going to do my best to not. I was on with radio with Doc Walker yesterday, and he said, "Don't talk to me about who's not playing. Tell me who is playing." So we're going to do that here. But we have to talk about a little bit who's not playing as well. Let me start on the defensive side. Now, first of all, Dan Quinn told us earlier today that he expects many starters to play. How long? We don't know exactly which ones, to be determined. This is the most likely only preseason game in which you're going to see any of the starters. So on the defensive side, my assumption would be the secondary plays. That includes Mikey Sanders, still Nick Cross, and so on. I'm guessing they play Amik Robertson, we just talked to. He's excited to go play against his old team, and he certainly sounds like a guy who's ready to go. The linebackers, we already saw Sonny Styles and Leo Chenal last game. The question is, will Frankie Luvu play? I would think yes. I mean, he is the green dot guy. You got to get into a rhythm with that. He wasn't doing that job last year, and I think a lot of this is very much a dress rehearsal. Got to rehearse that aspect, so I think he'll be out there. Jordan McGee is dealing with a shoulder, so he's out, so a little bit thinner at the linebacker, but you still got Kane Medrano, Ali Cahoe in particular to pick up some of those extra reps. The defensive line is maybe where it gets a little bit trickier. So out here today, K'Lavon Chaisson was on the side field. He's wearing a knee brace. Knee brace, yeah. We were told the other day that he hurt his knee. Severity, I don't know. Again, he's walking around. It's not like something overly drastic, but nonetheless, he's walking around with a brace. I don't imagine he's going to play. Did not see Adafe Owe. He was also dealing with a little bit of an injury the other day. Hopefully, nothing too serious. I talked about in the podcast the other day that I think this training staff is just being very conservative as opposed to this being a really alarming number of injuries, but any injuries are tough. Defensive tackles, again, speaking of injuries, Johnny Newton had surgery on his pectoral. He's going to be out much of the season, maybe even all of the season. That takes away a depth piece. So, in your RFC, Tim Settle is still not back at practice. He was on the side field today with a calf injury. So, do you play Daron Payne and Javon Kinlaw? I kind of think maybe there you draw the line. Also, I think in Payne's case in particular, he's been pretty disruptive in camp, and Kinlaw's had some good moments as well. Feels like if you sit one, you're going to sit the other. That makes life a little more complicated for the linebackers when you don't have your top defensive tackles. Shai Tuttle, Ricky Barber would be among the guys who would be leading the way if that in fact happens. So I think defense, most of the guys go. Let's go to the other side of the ball. Dan Quinn said today that the decision on Jaden Daniels will come down to, in part, who else is available. Okay. Well, he already told us that Nick Allegretti is not going to play. Nick Allegretti had he felt some tightness in his calf that he'd already injured and was missing a couple weeks of camp. So he left practice early yesterday. He's going to be held out. Now, the good news on that front is MRI came back clean, so no setback, but they're going to let him rest. Hopefully he's good to go for next week. Obviously, that's tough when you don't have your signal, your line signal caller, the guy whose whole superpower is the ability to be a communicator, what he sees out there on the field, and to not have him is tough. Other than that on the line, I think Brandon Coleman, Chris Paul play. I think Josh Connerly plays. Sam Cosmi to me would be an iffy only because, again, maybe I'm just a nervous Nelly, but just the injury risk for him. But again, he could very well play as well. The center part, though, is the tricky part. I wonder who gets the start. Is it going to be Julian Good-Jones? I guess yes, but I still don't know that he's making the team. Whereas like Matt Golban, I think is going to probably still make this team as a pick and as a reserve, but maybe you throw him out there. I doubt it if Jaden's out there. Beyond that, look, if Jaden plays, then you would think Terry McLaurin and Stephon Diggs play. If Jaden doesn't play, then they probably don't, especially when you're looking at Ethan Kaliakmanis and Sam Hartman as the quarterbacks. That's not I don't know how much of a test that's going to be, help that's going to be for those types of guys. Beyond that, I can see everybody playing. I will say that he seemed fine after practice, but I watched Bill was making some really nice catches. They were practicing fade routes today in the corner of the end zone. He made a nice over-the-shoulder grab. He also had a play where he caught the ball in the flat and then accelerated up the sideline. Seemed to pull up a little bit. Again, didn't seem like it was a big deal to him. We talked to him after practice. He was Smiley Bill, so it didn't seem like it was a problem. But, maybe with him it's a little iffy. Rashad White is not going to play. He's out with a hamstring that he hurt in the joint practice. So they're already pretty thin at running back. Today, you only had Bill, Katron Allen, Henry and the new guy, Craig Reynolds. So they're pretty thin there already. So that's my quick thoughts about that as to who is likely to play, but we will find out soon enough, and then we'll go from there. I'm going to keep talking more about this and writing about this on Last Man Standing, the Substack, and the podcast. Come see us.